I'm running to be the mayor for the people of Omaha. For too long, we have been caught in this business as usual mentality, and it doesn't work because we're all suffering from it.
Educate, inform, inspire. The Dan Parsons Show, a podcast that lifts up instead of tearing down.
Hey, welcome to the Dan Parsons Show. I am your host, Dan Parsons. I'm so glad that you could join us today. Coming up on today's show, Jasmine Harris, candidate for mayor of Omaha. But before I introduce Jasmine, I have two simple requests. Hopefully they're simple. Hop on over to the Dan Parsons YouTube page and subscribe to the pod. We'd really appreciate it. And number two, go to thedanparsonsshow.com and become a friend of Dan on Patreon. As a friend of Dan, you get some special perks now and then, like asking a question for one of our guests.
The people decide. The voices impacting Omaha. This is Election Coverage 2025 on The Dan Parsons Show.
Well, we are focusing on the Omaha mayor's race that's happening this spring. And the primary is just right around the corner next Tuesday, April 1st. There are 5 candidates running for mayor of Omaha. The top 2 vote getters will advance from the primary to the May 13th general election. So it's my pleasure to welcome one of those candidates to the Dan Parsons Show, Jasmine Harris. Jasmine, hi. Welcome. Hi.
How are you?
I'm wonderful. Thanks for making this work. We were talking in the pregame about how much time and effort and stress it takes to run for any office. So yeah. Thanks for doing that.
No, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. I love getting to talk about who I am and what's important and why I believe I should be the next mayor of Omaha.
Wonderful. Well, yes, and this is your second run for mayor of Omaha in 2021. You came within just a few votes of advancing to the general election. So yeah. I think my first question, Jasmine, is what motivates you to want to serve in public office?
Most definitely. Like you mentioned, I was about 1,100 votes shy of advancing into the primary, in 2021 for mayor of Omaha. And the reason I run is because being a policy advocate and working down at the legislature with elected officials, I see how much more can get done at a local level. The work that I do daily as a director of policy for a nonprofit that works with people who are incarcerated and reentering back into communities, we talk about getting jobs, housing, and transportation. And all of that can be addressed at the city level, which not only impacts their lives, but it impacts so many people's lives. If these are the things that we're struggling with so much, we need someone who can step in and say, let's get this done.
Yeah, that's so true. We talk about it all the time. People, worrying about what's going on in Washington. And you know what? I always encourage people, we got to take care of what's going on nationally, but we can have an impact right here locally. So yeah,
definitely
good for you. Okay. In order for our audience to get to know you better, the creative producers of the Dan Parsons Show have developed a list of questions we're asking all of our guests. We call it Dan's 4 and You're 1. Okay. So I'm going to ask you 4 questions. And then you get to fire one back at me. Can be one of those or something completely different. So, all right, if you're ready. Question. Okay. Question number 1. Where did you grow up?
I am a native North Omaha resident where I still live raising my family.
Nice.
Grew up going to a few different elementary schools, but went to McMillan Junior High and graduated from Northwest High School.
Very nice. Very nice. What was your dream job when you were a kid?
Totally nothing to do with where I am now. As I was growing up, I wanted to be a medical doctor. I went to college and got my undergrad in biology. I was a pre-med major. Life turned out differently, and I fell in love with public health. And so that's where I ended up getting a master's in public health. So still trying to impact people's lives and have healthy outcomes.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. The most famous person you've ever met?
I was running through the list of people who I met, and I think Patti LaBelle Probably the most famous person I met. I was going to a conference in Austin, Texas, and we flew out of Omaha and connected in Denver, and she was on our flight. And like, trying not to be that person who's like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. But when we were getting off the plane, she's like, come on over here and take a picture.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Patti LaBelle.
Yeah.
What a golden voice, man. Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Last of these questions. What was the first concert you ever attended?
So my first concert, I was 12 years old, and it was R. Kelly.
Ooh. Wow.
So that's like, I joke about it because it was like, you know, we didn't know the things that we knew now about who he was. And I was like, wants you to be a 12-year-old at a concert.
Yeah. Yeah. Good for you. That's not a small deal. Okay. Your question for me.
My question is for you is, what got you interested in being in the political realm here in Nebraska?
Yeah. Good question. I've answered this before. And I'm happy to talk about it. You know, so I grew up here in Lincoln, and of course, 10-year-old Danny was a big Husker football fan, right? And so every Sunday after listening to the football game with my dad in the garage, I couldn't wait for the Sunday paper to show up on the front doorstep so I could read about what I listened to and see the pictures and read everything about the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Well, then, it didn't take me too long to start, well, what's on the front page? And keep in mind, I was like 10 years old, I was a 10-year-old nerd that read the paper. And it's like, well, it turns out there was a hell of a lot going on the front page of the paper in 1971. Watergate, the Vietnam War. And so I was drawn into this other world that the newspaper brought to my front door every Sunday. And so I just consumed that. And so that's kind of what got me started in my interest in public affairs and in politics.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we are partnering with Flatwater Free Press and Civic, Nebraska, because they're producing a voter guide project for this election. So I would encourage our listeners and viewers to check that out. Two very respectable nonprofits here in Nebraska and a nonprofit newsroom that are putting these together. So we will be sharing these podcasts with those two nonprofits. So here's a couple questions from that voter guide. First question. What is the most pressing issue facing the city of Omaha and its residents? And if elected, how would you address those issues?
Yeah, most definitely. Thank you for the question, Dan. When you look at it, whoever you ask, that's going to be the most pressing issue, right? And so when talking with voters and residents of Omaha, everybody has something different. But for me, a lot of the issues are interconnected. Public safety is number one, I think. And I know when we talk about public safety, people's minds always goes to law enforcement. And I always say that's a piece of it. For me, it's about preventing crime before it happens. And we have to go upstream and look at that. So for me, one of the things I really want to address as mayor of Omaha is public safety through the lens of addressing mental health. I know we have the mental health responders unit that was created, and they have seen an uptick in the number of calls that come in for mental health. And right now they have about 5 responders that go out to those calls, and they want to be staffed at about 13 responders. So prioritizing that program for me is really important. So that way people are getting their needs met.
Very good.
Also coupling that with mobile crisis units so we can get the resources to the people versus trying to get them to places to be served.
That's great. Those are really important issues. We have a similar program here in Lincoln, and I see it up close on a regular basis. It's really important. Okay, another question from the voter guide. The city of Omaha's use of tax increment financing has drawn criticism, both locally and at the state level recently. If elected, how would you either safeguard the incentives currently or advocate for changes in TIF?
So TIF was created for areas that have been underserved, underdeveloped to use. It was a tool with great intention, and I think you have to be intentional when you use that tool. So I don't necessarily think that it needs to be revamped. I just think it needs to be used in what it was intended to do. And so when you look at how Omaha has used it recently over the years, using for these really big projects in quote unquote blighted areas. And you look at like areas like North and South Omaha, which are still extremely blighted, which TIF was created for. As mayor, I want to ensure that we are actually using TIF for extremely blighted areas and do development in those areas. We see a lot of the development in the Dodge Street corridor, downtown corridor using TIF. When you look at like North Omaha, 11 of the 23 approved projects from last year have a combined total of like $20 million, whereas the streetcar loan has like $79 million worth of TIF. And I think we need to switch in how we do that. And so working with developers who have a mission and a purpose for intentional development in those extremely blighted areas and prioritizing those areas when it comes to the TIF tool.
Well, speaking of the streetcar, construction on the downtown to midtown streetcar is underway in Omaha. What do you think of the project and how it's being financed? And if elected, how would you manage that project?
Thank you, Dan. So when you look at the streetcar and how I feel about it, I feel that it doesn't do a service for the whole city of Omaha, especially when you're spending about $400+ million to create it. I think, as we talked about previously, where the voters were supposed to get a say in this and that didn't happen, I feel like that should have been priority. But here we are. I say that train has left the station. Then we literally have to focus on how do we make what has happened work for the most people possible. I think it's fiscally irresponsible to say to stop the streetcar right now. You have to ensure that you're being stewards of the resources that we're given. I know we talk a lot about being handed down problems from different administrations, and going in, if I become mayor, that'll be one of the things that I'll be handed down. So for me, it's really ensuring that, one, that no tax dollars are being used on it as it's being touted right now. But we do have to think about the maintenance of it long term, and does that have a tax impact on our community, our city? And also working with the Transit Authority, the recently created Transit Authority, to ensure that we're connecting all of our different transit systems. I know they have a microtransit pilot program that they're working on. We have the buses and Orbit, and now we have a streetcar. And so we have to make sure that all of these systems that have been created in silos are going to work together. And then think after that, how can we ensure that we are servicing the whole city? And so I always say, think big. We have places like Denver that created a light rail system who has grown exponentially. And will a light rail, serve Omaha? If not that, then is it a train from Omaha to Lincoln? And does that service our region?
So I am in the business of messaging and encouraging my clients to be succinct in their answers, or as we call it in the business, the elevator speech, right? So in summing up your campaign and your message to voters for the April 1st primary, what's your elevator speech?
My elevator speech is that I'm Jasmine Harris, and I'm running to be the mayor for the people of Omaha. For too long, we have been caught in this business as usual mentality, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work because we're all suffering from it. And we have to ensure that we have a mayor in office who has a vision for the future of Omaha that includes everyone. So I'm running again to be the mayor for the people of Omaha, not because I'm running to have a title, not because it's a career move, but it's because I work every day to see how I can improve the lives of people. And I know that I can have great vision for what Omaha can look like, where our children and their children will be proud to stay here.
Very good. All right. What question haven't I asked that you would like to answer?
I think that's it.
Well, there is one more. How can people find out more about your campaign?
Yes, people can go to voteforjasmine.com, VOTEFORJASMINE, and you can follow the campaign there. We're also on social media on Facebook, Instagram, X, and Blue Sky, Jasmine for Omaha or Jasmine L. Harris.
Very good. Well, Jasmine, I wish you the best next week in the primary, and I hope to see more of you, and hopefully we can do this again.
Awesome. Thank you, Dan. I appreciate it.
Hey, thanks to Jasmine Harris for joining me today. Best of luck to you in the Omaha mayor's race. We are rolling out interviews with all of the candidates for mayor leading up to the April 1st primary. My thanks to Chase Porter, who produced this episode, Penology Tech Solutions for their technical help and equipment, Kim Remington, Parsons Public Relations Director of Operations. But most importantly, I want to say thanks to each of you for listening and viewing this podcast. And hey, if you like this video on YouTube, check out my other interviews with candidates for mayor of Omaha. That's the show. Thanks for tuning in. Now go do good things. I'm Dan Parsons.